Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 on how I got married to a stranger. I called Aunt Dolly. After reaching her on the phone, I uttered, "Mum, I moved out of my sister's place, and I am now at Woodley, but I don't know Mr. Shaw's place. Do you know what floor Joshua's place is on?" Aunt Dolly was speechless and told me to hang on as she calls Joshua. The old lady had no clue either because the house and the car were bought recently, and she came to find out her son bought a house at Woodley after we got our marriage certificate. After Joshua blacklisted his bride's number, he put the phone on the table and carried on with the meeting. Less than 3 minutes later, his mobile screen lit up. Seeing that it was his mother, he accepted the call and said, "I'm in a meeting, Mum, anything can wait until I get home." Then his mother said, "Joshua, what's the unit number of the place you bought at Woodley?" Esther is there now, and she doesn't know where the place is specifically. You have her number, call and tell her. She hung up. Joshua raised his sleek brow. Oh. Now he remembered he got hitched to a woman he had never met but his mother is fond of. He called his mother back and told her, "Tell her it's apartment 8B on the 8th floor of Block B." "Sure, I will let her know, carry on with your meeting." The old lady was a brisk character, hanging up the call and passing the message to me. Joshua stared at his phone in silence for a moment before taking my phone number out of the banned contact. He saved it and then sent me an apologetic text message.
"I'm sorry, I forget who you were earlier."
I did not take the incident to heart. So, I replied, "It's fine, just do your thing. I'm moving my stuff upstairs." Then he asked me if I needed help. I told him that I only have a suitcase and I can move it alone. Besides, was he going to come if I needed help? The answer was no. "You have a busy schedule. How could you find time to help me move?" I responded with a cry laughter emoji before going radio silent. I did not want to get in the way of his work. Joshua had also quit messaging. There was nothing to talk about since we hardly knew each other. His hope was for a docile wife who would not trouble him over petty things. Aunt Dolly's siblings thanked me personally when I saved their sister's life. By the time her children made it to the hospital, I was long gone. Hence, it was hard for Joshua to keep track of a stranger like me. Even though his mother had mentioned me several times, Joshua paid no mind and attached no importance to it. He could barely remember my name. Placing his phone back on the table, Joshua lifted his head and noticed that all eyes were on him. With his game face on, Joshua said, "Back to the meeting." Sitting nearest to Joshua was his cousin Joe, who was his age mate. Joe drew close and whispered, "Joshua, I overheard your conversation with Aunt. Did you marry that girl?" Joshua shot him a glare. Scratching his nose, Joe straightened his back and ended the probing. Even so, Joe had nothing but sympathy for Joshua. There was no need for the show's young boy to secure social and financial standing through marriage. Joshua and I were not a match in every single way. Unaware of all that, I got the location details and I was busy dragging my suitcase to get to my new home. I opened the door only to step into a spacious house. The place was bigger and more decked out than my sister's house. Putting down my suitcase, I started by looking around the place. This was my home from now. It had 2 living room areas, 4 bedrooms, 1 kitchen, 2 bathrooms, and 2 balconies. Each space was broad and wide. I estimated the entire house to be at least 2,000 square feet. The place was barely furnished, and there was only a sofa set with a coffee table and a wine chiller in the living room. 2 out of 4 bedrooms were equipped with a bed and a wardrobe, while the other 2 were empty. The master bedroom had ensuite facilities, complete with a walk-in closet, study, and bathroom. Despite the divided space, the master bedroom remained huge like a living hall. This must be Joshua's space. I mumbled to myself. I chose to live in the other room with a bed. The sunlight that came from the balcony brightened up the room. There was a room in between the master bedroom and the room that I chose. This way, the newlyweds could enjoy their personal space. Although we were married in the eye of the law, I decided not to propose spending time as a married couple unless Joshua asked for it. After dragging my suitcase to the bedroom, I went to the kitchen. The kitchen was squeaky clean without kitchenware in sight. Both balconies were also bare, but gave a roomy feeling due to the vast space. I intended to spruce up the balcony with some plants and a swing. Nothing beat reading a book and taking in the botanic view on a swing during my free time. Now that I was occupying the space, home-cooked meals were a must. I started with the kitchen by purchasing kitchen utensils online. As for plants on the balcony and other furniture, I wanted to get Joshua's take on it when he got home. It was his house after all, while I was simply crashing here. After placing the order for the kitchen tools, I looked at the time, because I needed to visit my friend Jane at her bookshop store. I picked up my keys and grabbed my phone, rushed downstairs, and in 30 minutes I made it to my friend's shop. With concern, my friend asked me, "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be at your workstation?" I told her that my sister and her husband have been in constant arguments because of me, so I thought about it and decided to move out. I shrugged, "So I moved out this morning." Jane gave me a confused look and said, "I can't believe your sister let you move out." "I got married," I responded. Jane ensued with shock and stared at me wide-eyed. Her voice went high-pitched as she asked me, "Esther, you are married to who?" Knowing that I could not keep the news from her, I came clean about the whole thing. Jane gazed at me for a while before poking my forehead and said, "I don't know where you found the guts to marry someone you met for the first time. You could have stayed with me if you couldn't find a place. I have an extra room at my place. Or you could have picked my cousin if you were looking for a husband." I smiled and asked her, "What do I need your cousin for? He has a girlfriend. It's too late now because the papers are already signed." I told her to keep it between the two of us and not to let my sister know the whole story because I didn't want her to be sad. My friend Jane was speechless. She never thought I could pull such a kind of a move. Then she said, "There are all those Lifetime movies and romance novels about blindly marrying a multi-billionaire. Maybe that's the case with you too, Esther." Smacking her on the head I remarked with a grin, "I bet you read all the chick lit in this shop. Dream on about marrying a billionaire at first sight. Do you think the place is crawling with billionaires?" Jane rubbed on the bump and signed as I had a point. We both busted in giggle. Then Jane asked where Joshua Place was. I told her Woodley. She said, "Not bad, it's good neighborhood and easily accessible. Plus, it's not far from here." My friend had nothing else to say. We closed her shop at 10 o'clock at night, and since her home was nearby, we bid each other goodbye as I hopped into a taxi to take me home. It took me 30 minutes until I arrived downstairs at my sister's place. It was only when I was about to alight, I realized I no longer lived there. Lifting my head, I glanced at the floor my sister was on and found that the lights were out. Although feeling down, I left the family of 4 to be and instructed the taxi driver to take me to Woodley Estate.